Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of the Dad and Buried podcast. My name is Mike. I am Dad and Buried, as seen on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and everywhere you want to find me, I'm there, looking over your shoulder.
You're not on TikTok, though.
I'm not on TikTok
which is
yet.
where I'm at.
I don't do the video content. I'm not so good at it.
So,
that's where you're here for, the video content. My man Pete, my co-host.
That's right.
Acquaintance.
Yep.
Maybe this year we can
we
can upgrade that.
Maybe we can go to each other's houses one day.
Well, you know what?
On the same day.
On the same when we're not ditching each other. Yeah. So welcome back. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. What do you have any New Year's resolutions this year?
No, but I am in the midst of dry January right now.
Oh.
Sort of started it accidentally because I didn't drink a New Year's Day, and I was like, you know what? Let's keep it going for a little while.
Because you just got so banged up.
Well, my wife wanted to do it. No, I was up really late, and I was a little drunk, but I wasn't like super hungover. But like I was just lazy all day, and I just didn't go to the fridge and grab a beer. And then once once I did it, I kept the momentum going, and it's been 6 days. Or after tonight, if you don't keep shoving your beer in my face, it'll be 6 full days, and the longest I've gone without a drink in quite a while.
Look at you. You look amazing, by the way.
Thanks, man. Already?
You've literally dropped.
Well, like I'm trying to lose some weight for my appearance at the Dad 2.0 Summit.
Okay.
At the end of February, but here's the thing.
Is that really just like a bunch of guys going out at night?
Yeah, no, it's me and you and Nate. I didn't tell you guys yet. So
DadCon.
The problem is it's at the end of February, and even if I finish dry January, which let's be honest, it's a tall order, Nordberg.
Yep.
I've got all of February to, start drinking again and pack all that weight back on.
Pack it right back on.
Happy New Year to you, Nate, and your new haircut.
Oh my gosh,
Appreciate
Nate's
it.
a brand new man.
So you may have noticed, or you didn't, maybe judging by the listener numbers, but last week we did a live on YouTube where we recorded the entire podcast live, and we wanted to thank everybody who listened to that and commented, and really everybody who's been listening and commenting and subscribing and rating us for the past year, almost a full year. In a few weeks, it will be a full year. This is episode, 48?
This is 49.
49.
49, yeah.
We did miss a week or two. We even doubled up a week at the beginning of last year, but I guess we've missed a few more.
We've missed.
We started late. No, we started late. That's what happened. We started at the end of January.
We did, but we this has really been awesome. I mean, amazing. We love the fact that
it's been a lot of fun.
You guys like listening to this. We love doing it. I think that we've said this more than once that I think we feel cathartic after it.
It does.
It was like a collective sigh of relief from literally
it's
in
nice
this room.
To vent a little bit, even though I vent everywhere nonstop on all my
That's actually
social
interesting because
there's
times after this where we're out at the bar and we're like, Mike, stop venting. Actually, actually do us all.
My default mode
shut
is actually vent, unless I'm with my family, in which I either yell or don't say anything.
Yeah.
So we did want to thank everybody for sticking with us on this little bit of an experiment. And the live was definitely an experiment. We may do more of those.
Yeah.
If you guys want to do that and be more interactive with us,
where we can actually take comments directly from you guys,
exactly, and respond in real time. And
it's fun.
We'll change the episodes a little bit. So they'll be less reliant on the comments and stuff that we've gathered beforehand. But if you guys are down for it, we are too. So let me know.
2020, y'all.
We definitely want to thank all of our patrons, without whom, frankly, the past year I don't think we'd been able to do. Whether the money helped, which it definitely did.
Yes.
Just kind of it was motivational, right? For people,
Absolutely.
People are actually going to give us money to do this. I guess we should keep doing it.
It's
for
absolutely
the people.
Incredible. I just have to say that
we do.
It's
we
amazing.
know this can be annoying
Thank you.
sometimes, but we definitely want to acknowledge all of our patrons, and we're going to do so right now. So if you want, hit that fucking 30-second skip, okay?
But not you, Chris Coleman.
Single dad tier, Chris Coleman, coming in fucking pole position every goddamn time. Miriam MS Babayan, thank you. Check your kids at the door, who has a funny meme account. He actually made a clip for his Instagram of all the times I've said check your kids at the door funny meme account. If you go to his account, it's a clip from our YouTube of me saying that over and over.
And now he's gonna make this a clip.
Yeah, he is. And now it's just gonna his whole account is just gonna be clips of me saying his name. That's what it's gonna be from now on.
Wow,
M. Cedeno 1980. Both of those guys, incidentally, submitted comments for this diagnose thing because they both have kids with challenges. Mallory McKenzie as well. The Dad Bod tier, Barbara Geiger, aka Funky Fee over in Germany. Morning Glow, Jacques Govar, Andrea Sandoval, Bill D'Amica, Dana Bosday. Forgot you last week, Dana. I'm sorry about that. Happy New Year to you and yours. Father Figure tier, Julie McCarthy, Joseph Diachason Sarge, who I think is the OG, the original patron.
Sarge
longest tenured.
The OG.
We should do something for him.
We are.
We just did. I said his name on air. You're welcome, Sarge. Paula Polsky, Jennifer Wynn. Paul, you know what? I'm going to turn over a new leaf. I'm going to leave the CFL out of it this year. All right?
Wow.
Come up with something new.
You know what? You've changed.
Define your personality by something besides the Canadian Football League, okay, Paul?
Yeah, say something incendiary.
Jesus Christ. Jennifer Wynn, and the world's greatest dad tier, Mary Williams and Julie Burton.
Gosh.
Congratulations to the Chiefs, who didn't actually win anything yet. They play next week, but the Dolphins propelled them to the bye, and now they don't even have to play the Patriots. They play, who do they play? Not the Titans.
Most people don't know what you're talking about, but that's cool.
Most people do. Paul Opolsky doesn't because he watches Canadian football. I already fucking broke my resolution within 10 seconds. And my new dad tier, Sarah, Desiree, and Monica. Thank you very much. You guys, wouldn't be able to do this without you, either monetarily or psychologically, to be honest. It's the boost we need every week.
We love you guys.
And we appreciate it.
Really do.
So this week we're talking about, you can become a supporter too if you want. With your wallet or with your words or with a rating on Apple. We really need more ratings. We're trying to get to 200 by spring.
Yep.
Right? We're at 156
by Feb.
So this week, a little bit more serious episode. We're talking about diagnosed. So Pete and I both have kids with challenges that we're going to talk about a little bit when we come back from the break. And then we're going to get into your comments where you guys have been brave enough to share some of the challenges that you and your kids face. And how that makes kind of parenting just a little bit of a trickier wicket.
Yeah.
Stickier wicket.
Stickier wicket.
Stickier wicket.
That's a good one.
You know, I mean, just really all it does is just make it more challenging than it already. A challenging job even more challenging in different ways. But we'll get into that in a minute. Thanks for joining us.
All right.
All right, so we're going to get right into it this week, guys, because we got a lot of great comments from you about Diagnosed, which is the name that Pete is really excited to call this episode.
I'm super excited.
You love it. You're super psyched.
Yeah.
The reason we wanted to talk about it is we each have a particular reason, right? So my kid, Detective Munch, my 9-year-old, about a year and a half ago, a little bit less than that, was diagnosed, with ADHD. Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, and we went to like the Child Brain Institute. May or not be called. It's like very science based. It wasn't just a doctor diagnosis.
Was this a museum? This wasn't. I'm not being...
No. It's just like researchers and like PhDs.
Literally trying to be humorous, but I realized I shouldn't.
Right, you shouldn't.
Yeah.
He went like 6 times. They do all sorts of tests. They do like CAT scans and all this shit. Just because it's like free, and if you like qualify, you can just be involved for research purposes and all that stuff. But they also at the end give you the diagnosis and all this shit, right? So like a lot of times when I write about his ADHD, which I've done on my Instagram, somebody would be like, "Are you sure it's not this or that?" I'm like, "Yeah, like we didn't go to like a kook. We didn't go to a cook or a kook, an unqualified cook." Okay. And it actually was like very intensive before he was diagnosed with it, and it makes a lot of sense. All the shit added up, which we knew beforehand, which I think is the case with a lot of parents who have like a kid with a behavioral disorder. Like a lot of times
you had an inkling that something was going on.
We had an inkling that something was going on.
And then you found how did you find this resource?
I don't remember. I think a friend of ours. So our school that we go to is like an all-inclusive. They're very much about intermingling. I can't remember the term they use for it, but intermingling kids who have behavioral issues or IEPs or disabilities, all that stuff, all in the general classroom, and they have a bunch of paras with them. And I remember the first time I went for a conference there were like 6 teachers in there. I'm like, what the fuck? When I was a kid, you go in and Mrs. Sullivan was sitting there, talk to your parents. There were like 6 teachers, right?
Miss Sullivan isn't there anymore.
No, exactly. Kids will have dedicated paras for them to if they have this, bigger issues than others, whatever. It's all together. So a lot of resources of the big network at the school, other parents or teachers and all that stuff helps you. And I think that's how we found out. I think the Healthy Network, Child Brain Institute, I can't remember the name of it. But I've written honestly about my challenges in being a dad to a kid with ADHD, which has been, I'm a pretty shitty parent to begin with. I yell too much. I have a really short fuse. I have no patience. And the biggest challenge with this shit is a lot of the behavior you think you can discipline out of the kid, or like we're not being strict enough on him. When in reality his brain is wired differently and he doesn't respond to things. He certainly doesn't respond to yelling. It activates the fight or flight thing, and all this shit happens. And a lot of times anxiety comes along with the ADHD. A bunch of people mentioned anxiety.
When you brought him in, were you hoping that he would be diagnosed?
So
were you hoping that
I wrote a blog post. I wrote a blog post that said my kid has ADHD and it's a relief. Understanding why. So my wife has
finally he's not just a
problem
blank. Or whatever.
Right? So my wife has multiple sclerosis. multiple sclerosis.
You know
I
what?
know I'm bragging about my
You
wife's MS again.
Get it. You've got all the
But for
issues.
years, she was going to doctors who, like, they're very reluctant because it manifests differently in everybody.
Right.
It's really hard to nail the pathology and figure out what it is. It can be all sorts of shit.
Yeah.
These autoimmune disorders can manifest in all different ways. So she went to at least one doctor for a long time who was like, would never give her the diagnosis, would never say that's what it was. It's a neuropathy, it's something, whatever. And it's very frustrating. Now she goes to a neurologist who's like, knows and nails it.
You got really
the frustrating part with that is he sees really hard cases. So when even though she'll be struggling, he'll be like, "Oh, that's nothing for other like for what he's seen." And she's like, "It's a big deal for me."
Right.
Anyway, for her, having that nailed down and like this is what it is. Now you can manage it.
Hang your hat on it and
you have
deal with it.
A problem that you can take on rather than this amorphous thing that you don't know what's wrong with you.
Because
same with the kid.
My wife has an autoimmune disease as well.
Look at us, man. Synergy.
Yeah, Hashimoto's. Perhaps you've heard of it.
Oh, I have heard of it.
Okay. You know what? Pregnancy is such a bitch.
It is.
It like all of a sudden she's like, "Here, you have a disease now."
Yeah, and then you end up with kids.
I know, on top of kids. But anyway, but yeah, just to be able to know what it is so that you can help manage it is important.
And it's really like it's something like ADHD. It's really hard because
you get
you don't
diagnosis.
know what you're doing wrong or what I'm doing is backfiring and making it worse and all this shit. There's medication. He's on something, which the first one he was on, like we knew within a week, it was
nope.
Emotional meltdown to the end of the day, all the shit. We switched it. It was much better.
Yep.
But still, like I was really reluctant to go the medicine route. Because growing up, for us, I knew one kid.
Right.
I know his name, who was on Ritalin in elementary school, and everyone was like, "That's the hyper kid who's on Ritalin," and it was a stigma. It's not the same anymore. Right. But I was throughout the '90s before I had kids. I thought it was bullshit.
You just mercilessly went after that kid.
I just attacked him on Facebook. I ruined his life.
That kid is...
But like, it's easy to dismiss it and be like, "Oh, they're over-prescribing shit for these kids. It's big pharma, and it's not a real thing. It's bad parenting or whatever."
Yeah.
Our parents didn't fucking acknowledge ADD. They just fucking hit you with a belt, or they buckled down and they were better parents and made the kid behave better.
And it just turns out that actually, no, they didn't. They were all suffering from massive
PTSD.
Issues, and that's why all our parents are divorced.
It's just a massive cycle.
Yeah, and I think
cycle
and circle are the same. They work. But I think what's interesting, or the gray area between taking medicine for the cause versus the symptoms.
Yes.
So you're treating the symptoms versus the actual root cause. That's really where this gray area comes in, because it's, a lot of times the doctor's like, "Oh, your son's jumping up and down on the couch. Okay, here's something that will make him not do that."
Yes,
and then you're like, "Well, but now all he does is sit around."
It doesn't cure anything.
Oh, well, for that, let me just add this other thing
that's
to get him
the
up.
other fear.
So now he's sitting on the couch. But and I think that's really where this gray area comes in, at least in my mind, with this both misinformation and also getting to the heart, getting to the root of it, which is can be anything from diet to exercise.
Right, and you got to make changes, and you got to be really diligent about how you parent and how you raise your kid and how you interact with your kid.
Not me. I mean, screaming is number one. That's how else.
It still is with me. And
how the hell are you going to go to bed?
That's the problem. My wife was always telling me,
your
like,
fucking teeth.
I'll get mad at him for something, and she'll be like, "That's a fucking symptom," and I'm like, "Not every goddamn thing is a symptom."
I know.
When he's talking back, that's shit, right? And it's really hard to find the dividing line, right? So. The challenge as a parent, you're always stressed as a parent. You're always dealing with, your kids are always a pain in the ass. They go through phases, sometimes better, sometimes worse. Something like this, it rejiggers your own perception of like what you need to do, right?
Yeah.
So you can't blame the kid anymore when you find out that they've got something underlying that is causing a lot of their shitty behavior. It's not going to, even if you solve it, which you can never do, you can just manage it and hopefully become a better parent to your kid because of it. But they're always going to be a shitty kid one way or another. Like when he's a teenager, even if he gets somehow erases ADHD, he's still going to be a dick. Exactly.
There's no chance that they're going to escape not being a dick.
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
And it doesn't far either.
Right, but there's the behavioral part, and then there's the medical part where like you're giving him drugs, and you're like, what is this doing to him?
And how's like the medicine time? Like, you got to take your medicine
in the morning,
and then it's like, no, I don't want to do it anymore.
No, he doesn't seem to mind it. It's become part of the routine. We've tried to teach him like to remove the stigma and be like, ADHD. It's like, It's like a superpower, right? Like Percy Jackson in the series of books has it, or he has dyslexia, or I think he has ADHD or something like that. And like
whatever,
my
you didn't
kid
get that
worships.
far.
No, I know. My kid worships that shit, but like it's all about being like. It's just a little bit. You're a little bit quirky, right? Or like you have something else you have to overcome.
What's interesting because your son's like a real bookworm, right?
He is a huge bookworm,
which is interesting because I mean my limited knowledge of ADHD wouldn't put those two things together because he really.
Yeah, I never thought about that. Yeah, because like
he
has
no
problem focusing on books.
Not necessarily bookworms. They're not bookworms.
But the focus is an issue on like everything else. It's either video games or books.
Which is which basically means maybe he just finds something he really enjoys and goes
right.
Deep.
Which then you're like. That's just called being a fucking human being.
But what's really interesting is like, Dad, you like beer so much.
I know. You really dedicate yourself to it.
You look at you staring at it. You're just staring at it. It's empty.
At the bottom of the bottle, bemoaning my life. So your kid
so
mergers and acquisitions is slightly different.
My oldest kid, my daughter, was recently, or in September, was diagnosed with epilepsy, which was a shock, but again, it was good to kind of know
what was happening because she had a couple of those like breathing incidents.
Yeah, she had some. She has like asthma as well, fairly serious asthma. And over the summer, she was at camp and she had this incident where she had to go to hospital. She passed out, and we were all very worried. And then, my daughter was 11 at the time and is now 12, and long story short, we had associated to something else. We thought it was asthma. We thought it was she was at camp and just not eating and doing a lot of physical exercise and whatnot. And we actually went up and we got her and we brought her down. She had multiple I remember incidents where she was brought to the hospital where she had fainted, or it wasn't quite fainting, but it was like pre-syncope, I guess it's called. Anyway, and then. We had done the EKG, EEG, and the pulmonary stuff, and everything came back fine. Everything was fine.
Oh, right.
And then in September, she had just done like a massive race or whatever at school, and then had just completely like passed out. Which was terrifying for everybody involved.
Oh, I'm sure everyone at the school and everyone.
So what she has is what's called focal epilepsy, which is it's not severe tremors, and apparently there's like a spectrum, and she's on the lighter end, but still has it. And so what happens is, and I'm laughing, but only because the way she told the story is really quite funny. She was saying her teacher was trying to give her she has a rescue inhaler, and was trying to give her the rescue inhaler and putting it in her mouth. And the way her symptoms manifest is she basically her body's frozen, but she can hear and see everything. God. And the teacher was putting it in with the guard on, the little cap on.
She couldn't
and
say
she
it.
Was like, "Dude,
you're doing it wrong.
Dude, your cap's on,
Fail.
Bro. Yeah,
you have one job.
You have one. You have one job."
Well, it was the teacher, so you have two.
And then, but as it happened, the EMT was there. It was because the school had to call an ambulance, and she was taken away. And luckily. I say luckily because the EMT witnessed her having a seizure.
So he was able to diagnose
very specifically, her eyes, went fully dilated, went up to the left, and that's a very specific symptom of epilepsy. We were in like a week in the hospital or whatever.
It's sort of like an exotic condition, right? So like growing up, it was like it's terrifying for an onlooker. You don't know what to do. You're told it used to be like hold their tongue down with a spoon, which they say not to do now. Yeah. I remember it was on like an episode of like Different Strokes.
What they say now is like if you have your phone on you, take their tongue out and take a bunch of selfies because they'll appreciate it later
afterwards.
Yeah.
So many likes.
It's really you get a lot of social.
I'll repost.
Yeah,
if you get one, if you get a good one. It's got to be a good one.
No, there's
portrait mode.
exactly. But no, in this case, because it's quote unquote mild, so she'll have like one or two. It was very distinct. She was able to get into NYU here, and we see a neurologist, a child neurologist, and whatnot. So this is where it actually kind of gets a little
dicey.
Fucked up. Yeah.
Okay. Uh-oh.
So once we went in, and we found out what the doctor's diagnosis is, nothing came back on the test. So she's not reacting to anything. She was there overnight, sleep, and with all the wires out of her hair. But the doctor put us on a drug, and that's really when like that's the beginning.
Oh,
we'll call that the beginning
this,
of the journey.
So we've been here where you had an incident you had to cancel one night.
Well, let me just explain. So we were on a drug. She was put on a drug, and I didn't realize. So she has pretty severe asthma. Like, you know, she had a rescue inhaler, and she was doing like all sorts of different medications during the night.
She's very active, right?
She's super active. She dances professionally, essentially. At she's an active ballet dancer, and 7 days a week is dancing, blah blah blah. And this. So what happened right after this? The doctor said, okay, we're going to put you on this medication. It's very light on your system. You might have a little mood swing. Yeah. And what we didn't realize was what like
the mood swings
the doctor,
entail.
The doctor completely undersold that. And actually what happened was she was having like psychosis.
Right.
Where she was in complete terror at night, in the morning. I mean, talk about, talking back, she would be like, you know what? And all of a sudden, I've got F-bombs coming my way. Like, fuck you. I'm like, what?
Yeah, right.
And then, of course, I'm reacting to that.
As a parent, like a normal.
And, of course, it's only escalating to the point where it was absolutely.
Beyond, as my mom would say. It was beyond.
It was completely beyond. It was so horrific and so sad and so scary.
Yeah.
And that was a month. Where one time I then that leads us to here. Yeah. We literally came. We all were here. We set up,
ready to record an episode.
Phone rings, and it was like I didn't even have to hold the phone to my ear. It was just like this screaming coming out, and I was like, okay, guys, gotta go. Maybe I can figure this out. Maybe
the funny thing is, the episode that I recorded solo was much better than most of our episodes. So
that's why I'll never.
Me and Nate. Nate was a lot more active. You guys haven't heard that yet.
That's why I'll never hear the light. Never see the light of day.
You can't let it out.
So we've been dealing with that. So that's been really.
But so that's amazing.
It's been a very, really hard end of the year.
It's crazy though, the way that it's like there's the medical condition, and then there's the drugs that create some kind of new thing, which we dealt with on a much smaller, non-life-threatening, much less scary scale. Right. But like the first meds that Detective Munch was on, at the end of the day, like he would just be having these crazy meltdowns, like not like psychosis, but enough where you're like, he's not. You can tell, like, he is not being himself. Something is going on here. We're like, we need to change this. And you change it, and it fixed. A little bit. He still has, there's some level of it, I think, with all the ADHD drugs.
Yeah, and well, this is what's, I didn't realize. I was like, oh, well, like, she has fairly severe asthma. She has epilepsy. What's the worst that's going to happen with epilepsy is, she can't drive a car. Okay, well, she's in no danger of that, and she can't swim by herself. Everything else, she can basically live a normal life. And then she had the medicine to prevent seizures, and now we have brand
stuff
new
to deal with,
human being who is extremely, like, she's a high performer, but she's wound pretty tight. So she was
mergers and acquisitions,
baby. Yeah, she was ready to like throw down at any moment, like arguing this and that, but never to this level. Like we got to the level of like climbing in the fridge and like saying that bugs were everywhere trying to kill her.
Oh my god! It's like that Family Ties episode where he's like taking speed and he's like digging trenches and just studying. He's wheeling around the room.
It is, and it has been like that. We switched medications. We had to go back in the hospital for a week, whatever. We switched medications. It's quote unquote better, but what I believe is that there is a channel now that has been open. In fact, we just had something not too long ago, a couple nights ago, where she's like, oh, I'm the most scared I've ever been, and I'm like, how? And she's like, ever? And you know what she said the other night? She goes, after a really, really pretty horrific night. I'm just gonna be super candid. She said, once she got calm, which was like 1 or 2 in the morning, she's like, I just never knew what it meant when the doctor said, this is going to have an effect on you. And she's like, I've never been so scared in my life. Like, she's constantly in this fear. Man. Yeah, it's really, and
the mental shit is
we're still terrifying. We're still kind of going through it. So it's like little, still very fresh for us. But I feel so horrible for her. Yeah. I feel horrible for my wife and me. And
but you have to retrain yourself. You have to retrain your reactions to stuff that in a perfect world would just be reactions to a kid acting out. But now there's all this shit. And sometimes it manifests with ADHD and stuff. Sometimes it manifests in ways that aren't that far afield from the way a typically an obnoxious kid would. And you have to realize in the middle of like getting mad or yelling, you have to be like, wait.
It's a really good point.
There's a reason for this.
It's a really good point.
It's hard.
And it's the fucking hardest thing. You know,
I mean, parenting is already
to
incredibly
differentiate the difference between someone telling you to go fuck yourself, and being like, you know what, honey, let me give you a hug.
Exactly.
You know,
and forcing yourself to fucking give the hug after somebody has said that to you,
and just to be able to either that and hug is extreme. I don't think I'm there yet. Sure. But to be able to not react in a like a white light kind of way, that's the way it's so hard to be able to get back to a place where you can feel that you when I say you guys, that you and your kid are back to a place where you can have a normal conversation. Right. Also, she's a pre-tween. Or no, she's a tween.
She's a tween, yeah.
She's a tween. So
preteen, we used to call them.
Preteen, yeah. I mixed up my whole thing. So she's already
dealing with all of that.
You know, she's already a dick. To begin with.
All kids are.
Well, especially mine, because I'm such a dick.
So, obviously, look, parenting is fucking impossible, basically.
That's really hard.
In the best circumstances. Even if you've had the best kid of all time, it's still fucking hard and sucks. Right. And having something like this, whether it's ADHD or epilepsy or stuff that comes from the meds, it just adds other layers that just make it a shitload more challenging, right? So I asked on my story about other parents and kind of what shit they're dealing with, and it was like opening the floodgates, right? A couple of people sent nice messages about, you know, I'm not dealing with anything like this, but I think it's great that you're doing it. I've seen like my brother's kids or whatever, and some people are like, this is a really good idea. So we do want to, you know, give the people that were brave enough to share some of this stuff, we're going to get into their comments a little bit. And everybody has something different. And even if you don't have one of these things, you've got something you're dealing with, right? Or your kid does, right? So J_Z said that it changes everything. Our daughter was diagnosed with Rett syndrome, which I had to look up. It's a rare genetic neurological disorder that occurs almost exclusively in girls and leads to severe impairments, like their ability. It affects nearly every aspect of the child's life, like their ability to speak, walk, eat, and even breathe easily, right? After the kid turned 1, and she hated every healthy kid she saw for about 6 months, right? Just like dealing with, why can't I have that normal, easy version? It says everything changes every day. And the little girl has a brother, and he's about to turn 2, and is just realizing that his sister is different than other kids. He does more for her than a typical 2-year-old can do for themselves, because he just loves her more and kind of just sees what she needs and helps, which must be nice to see. Special needs stresses your marriage, your friendships, your family, but you find out what real support looks like. It looks like a neighbor dropping off dinner because they saw you struggling. It looks like in-laws who stop by to take the kids for a walk so you can have time to yourself. It looks like a friend coming over so you can shower in peace, or a spouse unloading the dishwasher. Like, a lot of these things are things that...
I mean, hold up on that last part.
Unloading the dishwasher.
Can we just...
Don't touch my dishwasher, you know what I mean? Lady. Woman.
Oh, yeah.
I'm the dishwasher guy at my house. I unloaded it today. I fucking crushed it. Para.list, P-A-R-A.list, is writing from Barcelona. Says her daughter has a kidney problem since she was 2, is now 7. They had a transplant, or she had a transplant, but doctor said no problem having kids. No, the daughter had a transplant. It shouldn't affect her ability to have kids, apparently. Everything's under control, but every time we go to the hospital 2 weeks before, there's no sleeping just because the parents are just so nervous about it. She has to control a lot of what she eats, no sugar, no meat, just a shitload of extra things that you need to think about every day. They're doing natural medicine, all this stuff. She thanks me for my Instagram account. You know, we appreciate that. But again, it's just another bunch of extra shit that you need to deal with.
Yeah. I mean, I want to 100%. And I think, you know, the natural path, this is where that gray area between, like, and not to harken back, but I'm just going to touch on this. You know, it's a gray area, this whole, like, vax and, you know, what is medicine and is it good and is it not good? You know, here we are talking about, I don't want my kid on medicine, you don't want your kid on medicine,
right? But
at the same time, like, we know that actual medicine that's proven to work
and you
is
see
effective,
it does
and of
have
course
some positive effects, even if the side effects are troubling sometimes.
100%.
With me,
and in certain cases, it's like, you know, it's specifically targeting something.
Yes.
And I think, you know, we know much more information about stuff. There's a lot of destigmatizing of ADHD and whatnot. And we also know, look, you know, eating a balanced diet or whatever,
Yeah.
which includes mini muffins, which is lucky.
Oh my God!
Which
Thank
is
God,
the
because that's
FDA
all you eat.
just
So that's
approved
funny you should say that about the
mini
balanced diet,
muffins.
because my wife has MS, right? And there's a lot of people that say like going full paleo or something like that, right? Which is unbelievably hard to do.
Right.
Even just going gluten free.
Yeah.
Look, so about 10 years ago, she tried it, right? But it's like, it was not as easy as it is today. Just in those 10 years, it's gotten a lot easier to go gluten free. But just like, you don't know if you've accidentally, you can like undo all the work you're doing if you accidentally have a gluten, like during the week where you're like trying to see if this works for you or whatever, right? So like changing your diet and doing that kind of stuff and having to monitor what your kid eats, it's really, really hard.
I do. I just want to go back to J_Z. I mean, the family, you know, she mentions that the
help from family,
helping from
village.
people it's so amazing, and it is really important. And I think, I mean, we've done that for friends, and we've had we've had that done for us, and it's really amazing. It's definitely not my parents though.
No,
so.
Yeah, we've talked about that. Go back to that.
They're in Florida.
One of our old episodes.
Exactly.
So this person's name is either Shaylez or Cheslez, and I really hope it's Cheslez because I think that's funnier to say. Says that she has twins who both had heart transplants at 3 years old, and she's just tired. Yeah. Right? Just so that's different, right? I'm sure there's maybe some underlying shit that you need to deal with, and you're always worried about in the back of your mind. But really, that's kind of a more acute, like, here's a really, really intense few weeks or months or whatever of having that done, and then just hoping it pulls through. That's terrifying, though.
It's horrifying, yeah.
Amanda Murray on Facebook messaged that her daughter was born with a complete AV canal defect and had open heart surgery at 4 months old. She says, my 2 cents, I don't deal with it, because I asked how you deal with it. She said, it's our norm. I just roll with the punches, right? Which I think every parent, that's kind of what it comes down to. You can't fucking freak out over every single thing. You just got to be like, this is my life now. Yeah. I'm just going to live it.
Yeah. And you kind of shift into that mode of, okay, what are we going to do now?
Yes.
I mean, I think
once you accept it, like you said, once you have a diagnosis or you know what you're dealing with, you can shift into, all right, here's how we're going to manage it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. A friend of my middle daughters was just diagnosed type 1 diabetes, which is
we have one of those coming up.
I'm sure it's. I mean, that's just so hard, unbelievably hard.
The maintenance that takes,
and the maintenance, and I think, it's just the stress. You know 100%. What it is? It's like you're trying to do your best. You're trying to live your life. But then, you know, you're doing the best you can with this kid, or maybe you're not, because you don't, you're like me, and I don't give a shit. You're like us,
and you just suck at
it.
Shitty, you don't care, and you
dads. Suck. Yeah, and you're just like, shut up and go brush your teeth and go to bed. Yeah. Which
I don't give a fuck.
You know
that
what?
You had a kidney transplant.
Brush your teeth and go to bed. I want to hear about it.
You're gonna lose the other kidney.
You know
I'm
what?
saying that's one of the threats.
Exactly. That's a good.
That's what happens. It becomes so normal that kind of shit becomes fucking fair game. Yep. M. Cedeno 1980, who's one of our patrons, says his 3-year-old has a rare disease called hyperinsulinism, which is basically the opposite of diabetes. His pancreas produces too much insulin, which eats away at his glucose. So at age 1, he started to sleep throughout the night and not feeding. He had a minor seizure. We thought nothing of it. And then he had another minor seizure that was stronger. And then we went to the hospital, and it took a whole 2 weeks to get diagnosed. He said it puts a strain on the daily life, but nothing unmanageable. Glucose reading. See, this is the maintenance, right? You need to do a glucose reading. Right. One including at 4 a.m. And he mentioned in the past, like, late night drinking is not something he can do because he has a responsibility. It's like having a baby, right? You can't wake up drunk to feed your baby. You got to do this shit. It's expensive. It's toll financially because the medication is $1,000 a month, which is another big fucking thing you have to deal with. Note, and this is interesting because it's something you just said, no changes to parenting except he gets to have sweets more than normal. Right, so like you start to make certain allowances sometimes. This is kind of a medical thing, but like sometimes like you're like, oh, my kid has this, so maybe it won't be as strict today or this because of that. Their symptoms are acting up or whatever. So Caitlin Reardon echoes how important finding a community is. She says her daughter has a rare life-threatening chronic condition, been diagnosed for 3 years. And those parents who know our struggles, know our fears, and truly understand help get her through. And there are a ton of those parents, just judging by all the comments that we got, right? So Ariel in the ATL talked about all the extra shit that comes with it. Extra doctor's appointments, heart surgery at 5 months, and different surgeries. Her mother-in-law had to live with them so that she could keep working after the kid got out of surgery. Helping caregivers learn how to care for the diseases. My kid will never be able to drink.
You know, just with all of this, it's so interesting that, you know, we're talking about, taking our kids to the restaurants and what a pain in the ass that is. And,
it's first world problems.
And the thing is like and the old adage of like, I just want them to be healthy is really, it just kind of rings 100%. True. And it's amazing that, we have so much shit going on, and that, so that's just kind of, I got triggered by the mother-in-law having to live with them because then she's got to go back to work, which I'm sure work was a fucking dream.
Yeah, I'm sure.
No, I mean, it's like, meanwhile it's like, can you go ahead and like send me that report? Like
TPS report. Is that what it is? TPS report?
That's right.
Is that what it is?
You nailed it.
Fucking nailed it. This is an interesting twist. Anyway. She says she has a healthy kid and a healthy baby so far, knock on wood, with 2 very serious diseases. And she said treating them equally is really hard. The healthy 4-year-old wants to be sick for attention. That sucks, right? So just like, because you gotta devote more time to the kid who needs more care, and the other kid gets jealous because they're a little kid, and they don't know.
And that's so big. It gets really big.
She doesn't want any more kids because she's afraid that the next kid might be sick. When people say all they want is a healthy baby, fuck them. My baby is normal and healthy, just built differently. So fuck you, Pete, because you just said the healthy thing.
You know what? Fuck you, Nate.
And then she said, we faced a diagnosis during pregnancy that led us to consider terminating, which is just a whole other fucking wrinkle, right? Where like you find out about that stuff in advance and you're like, what am I going to do? And she says her husband has a chronic disease and he gets a flare up and all of a sudden she has to deal with the kid. That's crazy, man. See, that's just so much. It just adds so much. Feli Devi, who lives in Park Slope, says that she just spent Christmas in the hospital because her son was diagnosed with Kawasaki disease, and I looked that up. It's an illness that causes inflammation in blood vessels throughout the body, usually affects kids younger than 5 years old, and he has an underlying autoimmune disease. She slept on a chair by his bed the entire week, right? Your life is just different.
If only like Kawasaki disease was just riding rice burners.
That's racist. Calling it a rice burner.
No, that's what
100% racist.
That's what the streets. That's what I was brought up on the streets, because that's where I came from. The streets.
The streets of where? Tokyo?
Don't worry about it.
Hope for Brooks says her 5-year-old has an ultra rare, as in only 500 cases in the U.S., progressive disease. She takes 20 doses of medicine and 1 injection a day and has to get hourly eye drops. Oh, God. It's a full-time job. This has definitely made me a more lenient parent and has really created my non-disciplinarian parenting style. I want to know about that, the non-disciplinarian parenting style. Just let your kid get away with everything. My kid doesn't need to, but it would make my job a little easier if I could stop.
I mean, look, if you're...
She's right, though.
Anytime your kid is having fun, you're kind of like, I'll allow it.
Right.
You want to jump on the couch?
And it helps teach the kid perspective too a little bit, right?
I mean?
Like, I don't need to punish you. You're already going through a fucking enough, right?
Yeah.
So she said, I figure since she goes through enough shit every day, speak of the devil, she deserves to get away with things. It was definitely changed my perspective, and the little things don't bug me as much as I think they would if she was disease free. So basically what I'm learning from this is I'm a piece of shit for coming on here every week and ranting about fucking nonsense with all these people dealing with real deal.
I feel like a lot of people comment on your Instagram and you just dismiss them.
Yeah, I do. I say, shut up.
What? Shut up.
I'm allowed to vent. I'm fucking entitled. I have problems.
Yeah.
Fucking Dolphins won too many games to get a number 1 draft pick.
Shiloh Mason had one job.
Yeah, I know. Shiloh Mason 3 says his 6-year-old daughter has cerebral palsy, epilepsy, autism, suspected ADHD, and a frontal lobe brain injury.
No.
I attend many workshops at our local children's support centers, attend therapy for myself, and herself is on a medication for anxiety. Yeah. Right? That's the other thing, right? Coping with it yourself can't be easy. And here comes, was that an ambulance?
No, it's Kawasaki's.
I'm glad you said Kawasaki. Simcoe Strong says, my son has cerebral palsy, septo-optic dysplasia, Addison's, and a seizure. I didn't even look those up. I'm sorry. I have so many thoughts and feelings. I actually started lifting when I realized he was getting too heavy for me. Now I run because we signed him up for a running team, right? Yeah. So all these changes you made to your own life to accommodate your kid.
Exactly. And I think, one of the things outside of, life can be stressful, and like throwing yourself into fitness and health is a positive.
Well, he says
outlook.
He decompresses by working out, and working out also makes him more able to care for him as he grows. It's like seeing those people that like run the marathon or like push their kid in the marathon, like the Boston Marathon guy does every year.
I do the same thing except with alcohol.
Yeah, me too. Beer marathons.
Yeah, people applaud me as I walk down the street,
guzzling, shotgunning.
And I
look at him, he's got 2 12 packs.
Oh my god! And he's pushing his kids. Wow, what a
how does he do it?
Piece
what a hero! So that was some of the kind of the more intense, more life-threatening stuff. And then there's the behavioral things, or somebody who has autism, right? Which is a hot button thing. Thanks to Jenny McCarthy and her fucking disinformation,
both
campaign against vaccines because they supposedly cause autism. Shut up.
Well, look,
singled out.
You know what we have? Look, when the disease of the brain is tough. So ADHD, whether it's ADHD, whether it's epilepsy, whether it's autism, these are really acute. And look, I mean, we've just heard some really intense stories, things, and of course, those are those are
some of those are a little bit more black and white in terms of heart surgery or some kind of specific disease where they need a shot every day.
Right.
This stuff is just
you don't know.
No, it's
really, and I think I feel like there's a lot of mental health memes going around. There's constantly self-care, like, because ultimately everyone has
something
some kind of shit that they're dealing with.
Don't judge a book by its cover. Everybody's facing a struggle.
I think everyone is. I mean, obviously except for Nate, but So
the haircut's kind of a struggle.
That was, but you know what? I was trying to avoid that. That was
it was me.
Not his
I'm
fault.
Sorry. No, it wasn't his fault. It was the barber's fault.
Yeah.
So in this category, we got Sierra Roxanne says, my 5-year-old has ADHD and I yell it away. Horrible, I know, but I have low patience and we only just started. Horrible, yes. I have low patience as well, and I've been dealing with it for a year and a half. So
have you gotten better?
Sometimes. I was better today.
Yeah.
I wasn't better the other day, right? It's like that, right? I'm not that great at it.
I will. There's one thing. I just had this thought the other day. I'm really happy. We should do an episode on this. Like, what is your kid's favorite age? What right now? What is
my favorite age?
What is your some there was a kid on the subway the other day. It was a tiny little baby who was really squirmy, and the guy
was it Baby Yoda?
It wasn't, but it looked like it, and I kept pointing at it, going, "Baby Yoda."
Super fucking cute.
And the guy next to the dad who was holding the little baby was like, "Oh, I love him at this age." The kid, it was so cringeworthy because the kid was just squirming the whole time,
and the dad was like, "Fuck you for saying that."
The dad was just like out of it. He was just like, "This is the worst."
Yeah.
And I remember being like, that was not my favorite age. What I actually like doing is, talking to my older kids and being able to like have conversations that are like, look, this is what's happening. We're able to talk through it. And
we have a viewpoint and an opinion and
I feel more connected to them now than I think I ever have.
So let's table that topic until I actually have a favorite age, because I haven't gotten there yet. Maybe 10's the lucky number.
Well, maybe it's 35.
D.Rose05 says, my 8-year-old is a functioning autistic. If his routine is off, our day is fucked. Right? So that's something every parent deals with of a toddler, or if you're bringing a kid out who needs a nap and he misses it. But this is on a different level, especially when the kid's 8 and he's autistic, right? There's just extra special things you need to be aware of at all times. And she also says, I feel bad for my 5-year-old because his day also becomes centered around his brother, right? So all of a sudden he feels like he's in the shadow.
I mean, that's it, right?
Like, I deal with that with my 9-year-old and my toddler, because my 9-year-old gets pissed off that the toddler needs more attention. But like, the toddler will wander into the street and get hit by a car if we don't give him more attention. The 9-year-old knows not to do that.
What about when your 9-year-old's kind of melting down? Does he take it out on?
Sometimes their rivalry, their relationship sucks right now, really bad, and I know some of it is because of the ADHD and the anxiety that comes along with it. But D Rose also says she's sad for the day when my youngest will outgrow wanting to be with his brother, which is a sad thought.
Yeah,
I mean, that's sad. I'm sad right now because I don't get sad, but my 9-year-old and my soon to be 4-year-old.
You can imagine what it would like.
The split they're going to have soon. But it's a little bit different when the kid is resentful of his brother and doesn't want to be burdened with the kid, like in the movie Hereditary, when the teenager doesn't want to go with his daughter with a nut allergy, right? You don't want to talk about that movie anymore.
Nobody wants to talk about Hereditary right now. Thank you.
So shut it down. Here's interesting. Mandy_MacP says, her 14-year-old has autism, diagnosed at 3, so she's been dealing with this for 10 years.
Wow.
And it's completely changed her parenting style and how she looks at the world. She puts herself in his shoes wherever they go. What would be a major sensory issue for him? How can we overcome it and adapt to enjoy the experience? going into certain stores, can be tough depending on the level of music, the lighting. All this shit can be triggers for his symptoms.
Yeah, so that's really interesting. This is something that's somewhat new for me. Even though my daughter went through all the sensory stuff and had tested negative for everything, the other day she was at at a party. And there was a lot of flash photography, and
does that trigger it?
You know what? I looked over at her and I just saw that she was really like low, like she was low energy, low everything. And I go over to her and she almost was like kind of puffy eyed, but not quite. I'm like, hey, is everything cool? She's like, I don't like this at all. I don't like any of this.
Fucked up.
And I go, okay, well, let's go. We went outside and I was like, hey, what's going on? And she immediately started crying. I was like, I don't like all of that. I don't like all of it. And she goes, I need you to tell everyone to stop taking photography. Now, this was a party of like this. So this was her dancing, dance party. There was a cast party and there was like 57 people there, all taking pictures,
taking photos.
I found like the 3 guys who had the professional camera like photos, and I go, look, for 5 minutes, can you? It was a Secret Santa or whatever they needed to open. I go, can you just not take a photograph, like a flash?
Right. So this is the stuff you have to do.
I go,
right?
just for 5 minutes. I don't mean to, And I knew that he had already taken a bunch of pictures already. But yeah, it was like a real thing. And he, to his credit and actually to all the guys that I was talking to, like they immediately were like, oh yeah, of course. And they really became sensitive to it. And it was the first time I'd ever had to kind of put myself in that situation where I was saying,
you got to man up and do it.
Don't do something because it's going to affect my kid.
Yeah.
Because that's actually, I don't think I've ever had to go through that.
You never really gave a shit before.
Well, I was honestly too drunk, drunk to really care. And this is the one time.
Thanks for Dryuary. Thank God, right?
Not for me, though.
Nope, not for you. Keep it going.
February.
Check Your Kids at the Door, who is one of our patrons, again, says his son has ASD, which is autism spectrum disorder, I believe. He's nonverbal. Communication has to be simple for him to understand. It's frustrating, constant repetition. He likes hugs, so that helps ease the frustrations. That's nice. In an earlier podcast, he mentioned the 3 hours of drop-off and pickup because of a private school. Oh, I said private school. He said it's not private, it's just a special needs school that happens to start before my daughter's, right? So again, we were like, oh my God, how do you deal with that? But there's a specific reason for him having to deal with that.
Yep.
If we aren't there early enough, we can't get my daughter to school on time. It's important to have a sense of humor in all of this, and that's why I make memes that not only make my wife laugh, but other people too. Slow down, Check Your Kids. You're not that funny. Laughter helps tremendously. I mean, look, that's what I do, right? So like, weirdly, I get most serious when talking about ADHD and stuff, like on my blog, on my Instagram, but the rest of the time I'm just shitting on parenting in general because it's the only way to survive it.
Right.
But thank you for chiming in, Check Your Kids. Missy Gibson 2 says, my 4-year-old has sensory processing disorder and nonverbal autism. Sleep is our biggest struggle. I also have a typical 2.5-year-old daughter. I can tell you my parenting style couldn't be more different between the two. It's a hard balance getting after my daughter for things my son is kind of allowed to do because even though she's younger, she understands, right? That's the same thing as having a normal toddler and an older kid with an extra layer of challenge, right?
It's really hard, man. It's like being able to
your
parent
sibling gets to get away with shit more than you.
All of a sudden, you're parenting 2 different styles.
It's like being Bill Parcells and having Lawrence Taylor on your team and being like, Lawrence Taylor gets special treatment because he's the most dominant defensive player in the history of the NFL.
And have you seen how much blow he can do?
Yeah,
that guy can fucking.
He was on Howard Stern once, and Howard Stern asked him if he was still doing crack, and he goes, I dabble.
Like a fine wine.
Memory Tapia says, my 3-year-old daughter is on the spectrum with a speech delay. My toddler has a speech delay too, which is its own challenge. One of the hardest parts is getting her to all the places she needs to be. School, therapies, dance class, while managing everyday life and paying for all the therapies because of insurance and the waiting list with insurance. I worry about her future, not much because she's smart and funny. But, I mean, just like you worry about everybody else's, so you're like, there's an extra obstacle this kid is going to have to deal with, right? Yeah. And then you got to work with your husband to co-parent.
Yeah.
It's just, thank you for listening, giving voices to those out there who are struggling. You're welcome. I'm a hero.
Actually, we talked a lot about my daughter, but my son is a real whiny pain in the ass.
Is he? Yeah. And just in a normal way?
Just has nothing wrong with him, and he's just chronically unemployable.
For the rest of his life?
Yeah, he's been diagnosed early onset unemployable, whiny. Yeah. Just that's it.
I wonder where he gets it. You have a podcast dedicated to whining.
Oh, do I?
Luciana Letricino.
He's also super passive aggressive, or is he?
Says, thanks. I'm looking forward to listening to this podcast. My son has been diagnosed with autism last year, so we're just starting to deal with it. He's from Argentina. Yeah. So far away, but I relate so much with your posts and sense of humor. I have a friend. I grew up with kids who's from Venezuela.
For 1 second, that's ha ha ha. For 1 second, because I have a Spanish-speaking friend, so ha 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 is the same as.
I thought it was yeah. I thought it was yeah. That was like yeah.
But what I thought was
very
that
excited.
Their son was from Argentina, and that they were from the good old U.S. of A. But nope, guess what? They're all from Argentina.
I've never been.
That's how I pronounce it. Argentina.
Stop it. Okay. Brogan Millette says, my brother has Tourette syndrome and is on the autism spectrum, and I watched my parents struggle to raise him, teach him to be independent, how to treat people, the things we think are common sense, like you can't ask someone personal questions if you don't know them, all that stuff. His kid doesn't have boundaries.
Whoa, wait a second. This is from wait, my brother has Tourette syndrome?
Brogan Mallet.
Yeah, this is from a fellow child who's
a brother of someone with this. Yeah, he's just talking about how his parents, how it took a toll on my parents. They are now divorced, but continue to raise my brother. He's 30 now, had a job, takes a bus, still lives with my mom. Even as, Brogan is a woman. Even as his sister, I wonder what I'll do after my parents are gone. He's high functioning, but it's still a level of stress that'll never go away. We take it day by day. Thankfully, he's happy and healthy. My mom and dad definitely need breaks from him to unwind, though, like any parents need. But that's the thing.
It's a really interesting. It's almost like looking into the future.
How do you get, like, it's hard enough to get breaks as a parent without these extra challenges, just on a normal daily basis, having time to yourself. Somebody later suggests one of the things that helps is having time to yourself, and I'm like, dude, I can't even get time to myself, and I don't have a kid who's autistic or needs insulin shots or anything, right?
No, it's I mean, this is it. This is why the world needs this podcast, because
that's true. The world
we just need to scream into the middle of the night, howl.
So USA Gin O'Hara says,
you know what I liked about the other one? I'm just going to finish this. Is that how it started off? Like, what's that, like Simpsons, where the guy's writing a letter, and it's like in a male, it's in a male's voice, and then eventually it's like turns into females because we realize halfway through
it shifted. I was incorrect. Yeah. Sorry about that, Brogan.
No, it's all good.
So USA Gin O'Hara says that she was frustrated with her daughter for a long time until she was finally diagnosed with ADD at 17. She said, I wish I had known sooner. They have an iffy relationship because so much of the stuff that was symptoms she thought was just, you need to work harder, you need to concentrate. You gotta do better, She said, I did the best I could and asked anyone who would listen. She said, I'm glad that you learned about your son's ADD so early. It makes a difference, which, I think it does, both for him and for us to kind of know what we're up against, right?
And it's interesting because I always wonder, are we, are there, we don't know the causes for all sorts of these things. We know that allergies have spiked, right? We don't know peanut allergies. Like, what the fuck? No one had a peanut allergy when we were growing up. Now really. Everybody fucking has a peanut.
Yeah, my kid has tree nut allergy.
Do you know a friend of my daughter's has carrots?
Can't eat carrots?
I'm like,
lucked out.
Or apples. What are you talking about?
Fuck carrots. I don't like carrots.
You take it back.
I don't like carrots. I like celery. Nobody
carrots.
Likes celery, but I like celery.
I love celery. It's. Look
at you.
Look at us. Peanut butter.
Yeah, sometimes.
Sometimes.
I'll put a little salt on it.
All the time.
All the time.
Celery is quite salty in and of itself.
Put a little celery in a little French dip.
Yeah.
A little ranchy.
Yeah.
Crudité.
That's how you get a 6-pack.
That's where I got mine.
Yep.
Little Charmer 80 says her brother's kids, 2 nephews. One is autistic, which is pretty severe, and one just got diagnosed with ADHD. But the interesting twist she says is that, and I agree with this, she says, I would be interested to know if other listeners can relate, and I already can, is that our parents who are in their 70s, like mine are, haven't been massively supportive because they just don't understand the diagnoses. There were a few good years in the early days where they would basically just say the boys were naughty, and I know my dad deep down probably thinks that these sorts of behavioral disorders are made up or an excuse for bad behavior. He wouldn't admit it, but I know that this can be the case with older grandparents. 100%. Totally. I said it. One of the things that came out when my kid first got diagnosed was that I thought a lot of it was fucking bullshit too. Right? I'm not a grandparent. I just grew up in a time where it was nowhere near as common and it was much less understood. And people were like, this is just a BS excuse for shitty parenting or for having a shitty kid.
Yeah.
And it ain't.
My parents are the same way. Guess what I say to them? epigenetics, motherfucker. It's because of you and your, fucking Wonder Bread that you're feeding us. Fucking toxic.
But they wear white socks with dress shoes too.
Oh my God.
Dad?
Are you painting a picture of my father?
Does your dad have like
with
bare
shorts?
calves because he wore
calves.
like hairless calves because the hair's been eroded because you pull your socks up and you wore suits all the time or whatever, that your hair is just they're like swimmer's calves?
Honestly,
no one knows what I'm talking about.
You know what it is? Where my dad's super hairless. It's just like his like inner thighs, just completely hairless. It's so funny because I'm always like, Dad, your thighs are so smooth.
It reminds me in Step Brothers at the very beginning, John C. Reilly's talking to his dad about what it's going to be like when the dad gets married and they're living in the house together. He's like, what if I'm like walking around naked? I got my chest hair in a perfect V and just talking about it. And then Richard Jenkins just goes, shut the fuck up. So he just can't take it anymore. Anyway, Step Brothers, good movie. Yep. Lucky Stars 4583 says she deals with a kid or kids who have ADHD, anxiety, and dyslexia. She said it takes lots of patience. There's lots of failure, tears, yelling, guilt, research, and a new plan. So it was something I wanted to touch upon. You said earlier about epilepsy, right? You were like, it's called focal epilepsy.
Yeah.
It's on the spectrum, right? It's like 6 months ago, you had fucking no clue what that even was, right? You have to go and you have to learn all this shit. Yeah. With ADHD, my wife is constantly sending me links to all this stuff, and you have to become an expert on whatever your kid has.
You know who's a real expert? Is my mom.
Oh yeah,
and she's sending me all sorts of super helpful. Yeah.
Thanks,
I think
Mom.
Apparently religion is one of the things that
can
really
causes it.
No, it can really
help.
fix it.
Yeah,
it can really.
Well, religion fixes pretty much nothing.
Yep.
So there were a lot of people that sent in stuff about sensory or hearing issues, right? So Aaron Colopy says, my son has sensory issues directly related to eating, right? So I'd never heard of this. And somebody else said that he is 2 and very, very little. We spent 6 months going to the feeding clinic, and we're even considering a feeding tube at one point. Because of this, we literally let him eat whatever he wants, right? We get anything he'll eat. We get dirty looks when he's walking around with a bag of chips in public, or when I let him eat strawberries straight from the carton at the store. But what people don't know is I am just so happy to see him eating at all. So _B_fry, F-R-Y-E, says ARFID, which I looked up, is avoidant/restrictive food intake disorder, also known as extreme picky eating. It's an eating disorder characterized by highly selective eating habits, disturbed feeding patterns, or both. It often results in significant nutrition and energy deficiencies, and for children, failure to gain weight. Now, I don't know if that's what Erin Colopy's kid has. She wasn't specific. It sounds at least similar.
Yeah.
She says... _B_fry says, so many people have never heard of it, and I get so much grief over my child's eating. So they're dealing with a lot of the same shit.
Yeah.
It's the same thing where like you don't know what somebody else is going through, and you're just like, look at that shitty parent. The kid's eating Cheetos. Guess what?
Right.
That's all the kid is fucking eating in like 3 days. Fuck you.
Right. You know what's interesting is that both my daughters eat. If I could have a video of how they eat peas, everyone would just go insane. Like just one pea at a time.
My wife hates peas.
One pea, but what I'm getting at is I don't think that they have this at all. But it's so tiny. The way they eat things is really
like
bizarre.
Birds.
Yeah,
one pea at a time.
I mean, they eat a variety of food. Are they
savoring the peas? They just love it.
No, you know what they're doing?
They just love a fucking pea. Nobody loves peas.
They know they're just trying to fucking get
trying
it.
to fuck you. They're weaponizing the pea.
Yeah,
they're
they
turning
really
it around
are.
on you.
Oh, wait a second, I gotta go. I gotta make a phone call.
Jess _Fairley says, my 5-year-old has severe hearing loss. He's worn hearing aids since he was 4 months old. It's not that it's such a daily challenge. Heck, some days I even forget he's, quote, different at all. But sometimes I find myself just a bit sad about things that are honestly a little silly. I think he'll never get the satisfaction of randomly running and jumping in a pool because he would have had to have somewhere safe to his hearing aids, have to have somewhere safe for his hearing aids. Just silly things like that. Just like, what is my kid going to miss out on because
he has to take him off?
Yeah, I assume.
Yeah,
also, he'll never be able to be a cop or join the military because of his hearing. I wonder how it will be if he wants to play sports. Will the helmet cause the hearing aid to give feedback and squeal? Like all these crazy scenarios she's running through in her head.
Well, I feel like it's all, she's also assuming that he's going to be a quarterback because of feedback.
Let's be honest. He doesn't need to be talking to the coach at all.
We don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, he could be defensive end. He could be tight
end.
Punter.
Long snapper.
You know what? Let's not be insulting.
She says, I guess I just mourn the typical boy childhood things that he'll either miss out on or have to struggle through. I also regret that we didn't learn to sign. With hearing aids, his hearing was good enough that we can use spoken language, but I still regret it. You still got time, man.
I feel like he's 5.
Yeah,
you got
go for it.
Let's do it.
I can't
ASL?
sign. Can you?
You know, my school teaches sign language.
Teaches?
My kids.
I thought you were going, my school teaches.
My kids' school, They just do it as part of like
curriculum.
No, like how to like if you go to the bathroom or yes, or
Well,
if you
so
agree or you disagree, you say yes or no.
Incorporated
or like,
for some like preschools. They incorporate it for like kids who are young or like pre-Ks or daycares.
It's amazing.
Teach kids who aren't quite totally verbal yet how to use some signage.
But they do it for everybody for specific things like going to the bathroom or like agreeing, so that people aren't, the kids aren't always like, yes, or yelling out. I think it's really clever. So ASL, here we go.
Yeah, so, I mean, look, again, there's all sorts of different kinds of extra challenges that parents go through, right? So a couple of the other things were, that people just threw out there, right? So runner Leslie 25 mentioned the type 1 diabetes, never sleeping because of monitoring blood sugar and dealing with ignorant remarks. People assume I fed my kids shit and don't realize that it's an autoimmune disorder. That like somehow you did something that caused it.
Well, type 2, have at it.
Yeah.
If you got type 2 diabetes, you've a life of bad decisions has gotten
you're an
you
American
here,
shithook.
Yeah.
You live in Florida probably. No offense to all our Florida listeners.
Sorry, Mom, Dad. But type 1 is really shitty and it's serious and it sucks.
Yes.
And you got to wear some people have to wear
people hear
insulin
diabetes
pumps.
and they're like, oh, you're just a fatty.
No, not at all. You have to wear
I'm not saying that. I'm saying the general public confuses them.
Educate yourself.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry, Pete.
Okay. Your
Sorry,
pancreas isn't producing enough insulin. I used to work for a company that did a lot of education around diabetes. I also, little known fact, I directed the One Touch Ultra instructional guide, the video that comes along with the One Touch
Boring
Ultra.
old fact. It's _Chrissy Mack says, my now 15-year-old daughter was diagnosed with epilepsy 2 years ago.
Oh.
Feel like I have PTSD mostly.
So I wonder what that means. Is that because of the medication that she's on?
Well, maybe it's Chrissy Mack. Let us know.
Yeah, that would be interesting to find out because I think
you can go to YouTube and comment specifically under this episode if that makes it easier.
Chrissy Mack, that would be great. We actually it got so bad for us. We reached out to a family that had also had a similar diagnosis with a kid that was around my daughter's age, and they went through the same thing. So the medication that they first went on, they had to be hospitalized. And we had to be hospitalized too. Yeah. But it gets so I can't tell you how horrifically scary it gets, because when you're 15, 12, 13, 14, 15, you know what things that are sharp and like how to like hurt things. You know how to like manipulate.
I wrote a story about it once.
And it's very very scary. So I hope everything's okay. I'm with you, and I hope everything's going.
So speaking of scary, Hillary 08 says my ASD son was just diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia.
Hillary 08
at 14. Hillary 08. Was just diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia at 14. We are now deciding if he can live at home or needs a group home or someplace else to live. I cry daily and feel like a failure. I don't think you should feel like a failure. That's a really fucking tough road to hoe.
You cannot feel like
that.
No.
I mean, it's not like you caused that.
Honestly, if it's the first thing is can they be safe?
Yeah, right. Can they be
safe? Can they feel safe?
Yes.
Right. So first of all, can they be safe? Can they feel safe? And then from there, it's like just I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, but just
you sure don't.
Just like help them, love them.
That's call. It. Love them.
That's it. Like that's all you can do, right? I don't know what else to do.
K.Walker90 says, we are fairly blessed that we don't have to deal with any serious issues in our kids. However, our daughter does have a dental problem. She has some kind of calcium problem or something, and even with regular brushing her teeth are very prone to decay. So my kid's getting a root canal, and the doctor said is basically because of that. Like some teeth come in just softer. I'm like, because I asked, I'm like, is it because he fucking eats too much candy? And he's like, no. He's like, that would be all his teeth, right? This is like a couple specific teeth, or this one specific tooth. Yeah. A lot of times they just come in softer for whatever reason.
Then did your dentist say, did your son play any Minecraft or anything like that?
He does, yeah. Is that what caused it? Is that what caused
the dentist? Okay.
We have to brush constantly, which is a pain in the ass. At 4 years old, she had to have all 8 of her molars crowned and has fillings on her teeth. Man. Very frustrating and very expensive. Dude, this dental shit that I'm getting done is super expensive. I can't imagine having to deal with that with all the teeth. But then she says she deals with the people giving looks, because everybody immediately assumes that you give your kid a shitload of candy and sweets, and you caused it, and that's the problem. When in reality, there's an underlying issue.
You know what?
That caused it.
For 1 second, I want to go back. I remember I told a story like nine episodes ago about a kid walking around a restaurant with a satay skewer.
Yes.
They went up to a dog.
It was more than 9 episodes ago.
Okay, fine. The point is still, fuck those people.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just need to make sure that we're still okay with like, no, go fuck yourself.
Sometimes bad behavior is bad behavior.
Yeah. I just want to make sure we're still okay, good.
Jean Marie says that she appreciates our other podcasts that are more lighthearted and funny, but glad we're doing this one. Parenting with this extra layer can be overwhelming and also isolating because people tend to look at you and think you're crazy or you're overreacting or just a shitty parent.
Goes back to what we underscore J, I'm not sure her handle, but it's about the support. You know, it's about people understanding,
the
like,
community,
listen,
the village,
and I think combined with parents who obviously don't understand. Or
just don't understand.
May not understand. You can't like you gotta separate. You gotta move away. If you're getting like, oh, you just gotta be a better, more disciplined, which is exactly what my parents would say.
You gotta put your hand to the face, talk to the hand, and walk away.
You know what? That was really weak, but I like that.
Talk to the hand.
Yeah, and if you're watching,
she's all that YouTube, and a bag of chips. Right,
it's getting worse as your 90s. What are you gonna say?
Pretty hot, better.
Pretty hot and tempting. Fat.
Is that what that means? I never heard that. Casey Horrell says both my kids have had febrile seizures, which are fever related, with no lasting effects, but super scary.
Yes,
we need to keep the kids away from people who have fevers. And then we have to dose them with Motrin around the clock until the risk has passed. So, like, I guess that's something that can happen.
Yeah, I'm not. This is not going to be good information for this particular writer, but my oldest daughter had a febrile seizure early on.
Oh,
we thought it was fine.
Fever related, but it was
no. It was 100% a febrile seizure. But now she has epilepsy. So listen, totally unrelated.
Casey,
so don't
sorry
worry.
about that.
I just had to say that because we'd been through that as well. But
she said they had to rule out epilepsy, right? The youngest has had about 9, and done a bunch with neurology to rule out epilepsy.
Oh,
he'll be 2 in May. At least they'll grow out of it. Watching your son turn blue shakes you up, though. Yeah, man.
Oh my God, it's so scary. I can't. I feel so bad. That is horrible.
You know what else shakes you up? Ever. One time in college, I painted my face blue when I got really drunk, and I ran around and I said, "My name's Blue Man."
I honestly, you just described
the first time I got really drunk.
The most horrific. These kids turning blue. That's one thing. You being blue, running around BC.
I hadn't even read The Watchmen yet.
Saying I'm a blue man.
Just Watchmen.
Is honestly, it's horrific.
No, I'm not a blue man. I'm Blue Man.
No. I know, and you blew yourself, and you would.
Okay.
And
watch your words.
People would be like, "You should record yourself."
What was it? What is it that Bateman says to him?
You should really record yourself. And then he's recording himself. I went to blow myself. He's like, no, nothing wrong.
No problem there. Don't Bite Your Friend says we have one normal kid, quote unquote, and one with anxiety who requires therapy in home and in a clinical setting. We struggle with finding balance between the kids and making sure they're both getting enough attention.
Yeah.
Like, again, normal parent stuff, but with an extra layer of attention and care that needs to be placed upon it, and then just awareness, right? Knowing, like, there's underlying things that cause things worse.
And you know what's interesting is, like, the normal kid, like, you don't know what the fuck they're gonna flip flop. Maybe they, like, one's a good and one turns in great, and then the other one's like, oh god damn it. Just like, you know what, can't you just all be child stars? We make a bit of scratch,
a little scratchy,
and then we figure it out after you're 12.
So
we make our money back. And then it's like, whatever happens,
you're gone.
Happens.
And then divorce
whatever
the hell out of us.
Happens, son.
V_right with a W_time 2010 says, I used to work with children diagnosed with autism. Their parents are some of the most broken, but also strongest and most amazing parents I've ever had the privilege of knowing. I live with anxiety, and while I pray neither of my kids has it, I'm thankful to feel prepared. But I mean, it is true. It does make you stronger in many ways. Just
I don't. But
it exhausts you and stresses you out. But
it's a very strange. I'm just gonna call this one. This is a very strange comment. Some of them, their parents are some of the most broken, but also the strongest and most amazing parents I've ever met. They're both broken and strong.
I think the beginning maybe breaks you a little bit, and then you have to, then you have to recover, and now they're stronger than ever.
I hope so.
Because they keep going.
Yeah. Maybe they're just broken.
Wow. Calling the right time, 2010, out.
Yeah.
Jacques Q. Tour says she has a brittle bone disease child. Brittle bone disease results in fragile bones that break easily. It's typically present at birth, but it only develops in children who have a family history of the disease.
You really bolded.
No, I just copied and pasted.
Okay.
I don't normally bold. But see, again, that's just a crazy,
Yeah.
the level of anxiety with that
I know.
must be insane.
Oh my, just being so protective and wanting to make sure that your kid's okay. They're playing, they're having fun. And of course you're sitting there going,
oh shit.
Don't have too much fun.
Yeah.
And you're like, Mom.
What if he
you're like,
falls
I know.
down?
What if
Yeah.
that happens? Ugh.
So a bunch of people offer
Sorry.
suggestions for how to help. Actually, somebody, Torres Fam J, says, what is the best way, in your opinion, friends can help? I have a friend with 4 kids, one who has serious issues. I offer to take one or more of the kids to lighten the load some days, but what else is there that can't be done?
What?
I mean, that's
you are
a huge
fucking
thing.
hero.
Yeah.
You're a hero.
You're doing a lot.
Applaud you.
I mean,
That's
just the
amazing.
fact that you have awareness of it and that you're willing
is
to
amazing.
offer and that stuff, I think that's huge.
there are people that have, more or less kids. I mean, there are some people that have like multiple, like way more kids, and you're like, oh yeah, just give us the
Give
kid,
us some
and,
of those kids.
and we'll
Give
take
me some
them.
of them.
And then a lot of them are like, no, because we sell them in the black market. And honestly, their heart's in the right place as well as their wallet, which I like because of capitalism. But yeah,
USA.
I don't know. Yeah,
USA.
I know.
So Laura Lynn MCD says one good thing to do is to get help when it starts to show. I think she's referring mostly to something like ADHD or maybe even autism. Don't wait. ADHD in particular, teens aren't as open to help. I mean, my kid is... I can't imagine at 15 dealing with my kid. He's so stubborn.
But, I think this is a really good... I think this is poignant because, your son will have had so much experience with this that by the
just
time... Just
awareness of it, right?
It's just not a thing anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah, I got that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it destigmatizes it. Yeah.
To be honest with you, it's like, oh, yeah, I have asthma.
Yeah.
I mean, remember when asthma... You were the asthma kid?
Yeah. Like in It?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those were
Sorry
the
to bring
days.
that up. Caitlin Wake says...
You know what? Those are the days when you can get eaten by a mythical monster.
A clown.
That
turns
sewer,
into a spider.
In a sewer somewhere.
Caitlin Wake says, get that dang village everyone talks about. Especially if you have more kids, you'll need the babysitting. I fucking need the babysitting.
You know what? I need that village that she's talking about.
Yeah, me too. Where is that village? I hope it's not the Emerald Forest, the movie I was talking about earlier.
You know what? That movie was
Powers Booth.
It was such a bad
Directed by
reference.
John Borman.
My God.
J_Z is back. She says, patients and a team of therapists and doctors make all the difference. If you find the right doctor or the right facility, that does make a huge difference. La Bruja Aguerita says, stress relief for yourself is important because there will be days you crack and the kids should never see it if you can help it. But yeah, you do need stress relief. Kara Shepman says, getting plenty of alone time is key. Again, it's the most precious commodity in the parenting world.
But that's really just, you're kind of laying it right at the... I mean, come on. You're getting alone... Yeah, no shit. That's what the whole point of this
Sherlock. No shit,
whole
Shepman.
podcast
Pete
is
says.
that we're on the brink of being like, why did we have all these kids to begin with?
This is our alone time, Pete. I treasure it.
This is basically our alone time because once this is over, up there, that's their time. Down here, this
Goonies,
is our time.
Look at you. Ashley Engleet X says, this is a cliche, but taking it one day at a time and focusing on what you can control. Which is very important, right? You need to realize there's some stuff that you just can't control, and you just got to fucking deal with it. This is my life now, and I'm going to do my best. Lego1311 says, I teach students with exceptionalities, ASD, Down syndrome, cerebral. Is it cerebral or cerebral palsy?
Cerebral.
Thank
cerebral
you.
Or cerebral palsy sometimes.
Well, I just fucking asked you, and you said it was one, and then flipped.
I just was reading the word.
She said, and I want to give a shout out to all the parents of children with any exceptionality. It is incredibly hard to navigate the world of doctors and paperwork, but you are doing a great job advocating for your kid needs, being their voice and standing up for their rights, which can feel like an uphill battle
That's
sometimes.
a big one. You know,
celebrate the little achievements for both your child and yourselves.
That's actually really, sometimes, doctors in most cases just want to. Your kid is, like I said, your kid's jumping on the couch. Here's something to make them stop jumping on the couch. Like, problem solved, right? Like, is your kid 100%. Not jumping? But they're not really. And so I think being able to advocate.
The problem solved.
Advocating. You know what?
But you're going to do it your whole life.
I'm also saying avocados as well.
I like avocados.
And avocados.
Dave the Red 16 says, applied behavioral analysis therapy, ABA, for kids with autism has been life-changing. And Taddy_creation said, it's so hard. School just treats him like a problem. You have to be his advocate.
How about weed? Let's just weed for everybody.
For the kids and the parents? Or CBD or THC?
A fucking East Coast family, as far as I'm concerned.
Whatever you got to eat. ABC, BB.
Just fucking give it all. Yumma, yumma, yumma.
I stole that Belle Biv DeVoe CD when I was a kid.
You did?
Yeah.
Did you
From
eventually give it back?
I did not,
Okay.
but maybe I should.
You know what?
Might be in my garage.
Caldor would have been in business to this day. What about the Fat Boys? Did you steal the Fat Boys?
No, but I saw Disorderlies in the theater at a birthday party
okay.
with the kid who had Ritalin, who was on Ritalin in my elementary school. I think. I also saw Funny Farm at a birthday party for him. Why are kids going to see Funny Farm with Chevy Chase?
Because he's so angry. And you know what? That's actually probably the closest movie to actually how Chevy Chase is. He was just an angry. Chase? Remember Chevy Chase? He was so angry.
You egg timer. All right, so look, we went through a lot of shit. I had a lot of comments. I'm sorry if I wasn't able to get to yours. Longer episode than normal, more serious episode than normal because this required kind of a serious tone. And guess what? We can fucking do it. We can bring that serious shit if we have to once in a while. You know what?
God damn.
There are only like 3 movie references to that, and one of them was Goonies from you. So get off my back.
No, you know what? I want to get on your back.
Ew.
Not the way you're thinking. I'm talking without my clothes.
You fucking weirdo. All right, so we do want to we're gonna wrap it up as usual, talking a little bit about some comments we got from older episodes.
Okay, remember, so if you go back and you
watch
listen,
the live on YouTube,
or other episodes, or tell people. We did a live episode, which was a first, and I think was interesting. And we tried out some new gear, we tried out some new ideas, and we did a look back on 2019. And you know what? It didn't go very well.
No, it didn't. And Sarge just came out of the gates and immediately just said, "Are you in a storage unit?" Shots fucking fired at my man Nate's new pad.
Nope.
Fuck you, Sarge.
We're in Nate's. We are in a storage unit of sorts.
We are now.
Human skin, sort of handcuffs, fingernails.
Handcuffs?
Yeah, I found a few. Did you go to the
Hydrochloric
bathroom?
acid, is that the kind that dissolves
Did
bodies?
you go to the bathroom?
I did,
There was right next to the Pert Plus. There was
the Pert Plus.
Yeah, there was some.
So Sarge also said, to those of my fellow listeners who complained of the extended intro to the podcast, fuck off. I love the intro. It is like an episode recap / warm up to this week's episode. If you don't like it, there is this thing where you fast skip ahead. I mentioned that. I also want to apologize to Mike, Pete, and Nate. Attending your live video are rare for me because, let's be honest, I have kids. It's a pandemic and must be fought off daily in order to get caught up on your live videos.
There you go. That's a real pandemic.
Champion. What a champion.
Just dealing
Sarge
with his
is.
kids.
I forgive you for being a Yankees fan.
You know what? Also, just that strong stance he takes.
He did, yeah. Well, you know what? He likes to hear his name mentioned. He's not going to take any guff from somebody who doesn't.
You know what? He's the OG, and in all deference.
We appreciate you, Sarge.
Sarah
Dawn says, you guys briefly discussed the expense of going to Disney resorts in the How Much Do Your Kids Cost episode.
Yes.
Which, fun fact, is awful when you reference the movie Rad. You're welcome. And Pete said princesses, and Mike said it's Princess I. Not super funny. I think it was kind of super funny, but it still made me choke on my coffee. You need a P.O. box so I can get rid of that stupid. She wants to send Rad to me.
She has Rad?
Yeah. Pretty sure my husband has the only copy in existence because that movie is garbage. You know what, Sarah? You had me until the last sentence.
She fucking trolled you.
If I wait till I tell my brother about this, the biggest Rad fan in the world.
You know what? Just give her your P.O. box.
I don't have one.
You definitely have a P.O. box.
I should
I've
find
seen your
one.
apartment.
I feel like we did these
You know what?
ones.
Guess who's going to Disney?
I know. I saw your dumb Instagram.
This guy. And maybe my family might come as well.
Can I
go? Sure. Actually, that's not a big deal.
Appreciate it.
You know what? We have more than enough room in our. We have one.
You know, I don't want to be part of your family, right? And the sarcasm that's dripping off your fucking tongue right now.
Yes.
Ew. Jesus.
You know what?
Pete's getting loopy, guys.
I'm getting loopy, but you know what? This is good.
So yeah, in the future, a bunch of you sent comments about kids with allergies, and my kid has a severe tree nut allergy. We're definitely going to do an episode about allergies at some point and how they've all been created by GMOs and also China, probably.
Epigenetics.
Right?
It's called epigenetics, guys. Look it up.
I'm going to look it up because I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah.
Go give us a rating and enjoy the first week of 2020.
We
Thanks
love
for
you.
listening, guys.
See you next time.
I don't know why you would still be watching This Isn't a Marvel Movie, no matter how much I look like Paul Rudd, which you can deny it all you want. It's there in the eyes, I think. I'm young looking like him. If you enjoyed the podcast, which you obviously did or you wouldn't be listening still, sign up on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you want to listen to. Comment here on YouTube, subscribe, hit that like button. We want to hear from you. Comments, questions, dirty jokes, money, all the money you can give us. We'd love it all. Catch you next time.